spirit of matter. And I'm broadcasting to you from the periphery of the heart of the problem in the Middle East, so down south Israel. And this is a Saturn day with the Mars hour. Sorry, I was doing other things in Jupiter hour. So the ascendant and the midheaven, though, are ruled by Jupiter still, I believe, yes. With Jupiter in the third house on the 11th degree. And Mars opposing it on the 11th degree. The moon has officially gotten out of its void, of course, but is not yet eclipsing. So I have just a little bit before the eclipse itself, just a little bit of time to record to you. So I hope the void of course moon was going okay and has been treating you well. We're about to venture into an eclipse for which I will enter my cocoon and get out after the eclipse. But right now I'm letting out some light. And the story of this episode basically begins with an argument, okay? And the story of this episode began from this argument, and this argument was, I was hearing people with pro-Palestine, pro-this, pro-that, and learning a little bit about the Palestinians and Palestine and our neighbors, basically. So my argument was, hey, how would people feel in Palestine? And the argument was with somebody who was posting the flags of Kurdistan and Palestine. And so I expanded my argument. I said, all I see when I see Arab countries, I see women journalists being oppressed. I see women being oppressed. I don't see pride flags anywhere in Palestine. I watched the Saluki who traveled in Jenin, in Nablus, in Hawara, in the West Bank. And I ain't seen no woman. I ain't seen no gays, okay? I ain't seen no pride flags. And I'm like, that bothers me because I absolutely would like all people, Palestinian people included, to live good. But do I feel hopeful for Palestine? But because the Kurdistan flag was joining that I was like, well, how would women feel in Kurdistan? And some person who was LGBTQ person was like, Syrian Kurdistan has the best LGBTQ and women equality in the world. So I think they'll be fine. And I was like, oh, well, let's look it up. So I looked it up. And apparently, this is a country that's separated from Syria during the Syrian civil war. And what I realized that the Legion of Women, I think it was there, I'm going to check it with you live soon, beat ISIS by simply having a Legion of Women that scared ISIS warriors because, not ISIS, the goddess, okay, the organization, because they didn't want to be defeated by a woman. So they live in a very decentralized way. It's kind of like tribes or communities that are decentralized, having full rights for LGBTQ and women, equality. And I'm like, whoa. So that's happening. And the capture in the video showing their flag. So a couple of things. First of all, I remember 9 years ago, and I'm going to make some predictions without even looking at a chart. I don't even know if I have a chart for the foundation of Rojava. Also, it is not acknowledged by, I think it's not acknowledged by the UN. They have a flag, but they're not acknowledged as a state yet. My prediction is that around this eclipse cycle, they're going to be establishing themselves as a new state or country or whatnot. But they're going to have this acknowledgement. And I remember 9 years ago, when Rahu was in Libra, I was doing Model UN. And I remember even when we were talking about it, because there was the war in Syria, and the topic showed up. And I remember the story about the Legion of Women that defeated ISIS by just being women. I did not know about Rojava, I did not know about the country, I did not know what it was, but I was like, gee, that's so silly and smart at the same time. So it's like all I had to do to defeat the most murderous of guerrilla or whatnot troops was basically to send women with weapons, and they were just like scared because they didn't want to be defeated by a woman. And I'm like, gee, that's interesting. And now, interestingly enough, right around an eclipse, although the eclipse is going to be on the Scorpio Taurus axis, Rahu is already in Aries. So it comes around and I hear about this country, actually through an argument, which is a very, very particular to Aries. Okay, get new realization through an argument. I'm like, how do women and LGBTQ people are going to feel in Kurdistan and Palestine? Oh, there's that country. So that's a beautiful story. But now let's see if we got more than a beautiful story here. The place is called Rojava. Rojava. And it's in the northeastern part of Syria. They're basically separated from Syria. And let's see if we have a natal chart. Okay, this one is for Syria, which is interesting, but yeah, or maybe I will have to comprise it. So let's read about Rojava, see if I can comprise it, because the Autonomous Administration of North and East Syria, AANES, is also known as Rojava, is a de facto autonomous region in northeastern Syria, consists of self-governing sub-regions in the area of Afrin, Jazeera, Euphrates, Raqqa, Tabqa, and Manbij, and Deir ez-Zor. Okay, the region gained its de facto autonomy in 2012 in the context of ongoing Rojava conflict. So this is and the wider Syrian civil war, in which its official military force, the Syrian Democratic Forces, has taken part. So let's take a look. We have a flag. Traditional administration declared 2013. Cantons declare autonomy 2014. We have cantons declare federation. And this is 17 March 2016. So let's go. Okay, do we have some other dates? Have the flag here. Okay, flags. I remember back then the day that ISIS was sabotaging the infrastructure in Syria. I think we had a Model UN session about this. So this is also interesting that it's coming up now, because we would think that water stuff and infrastructure is Saturn Pisces, but that was happening way before Saturn Pisces. And this is ISIS strategies, apparently, sabotaging waters and infrastructure. So pollution of stuff. We also see it in the Middle East. Okay, I don't have a time, which is annoying, but they have the currency is the Syrian pound for those who would want to buy the currency of the country, whether as investment or as donation. I don't know if it's possible or where can you get it. Okay, for me, it's like the only way I can buy a currency that's not our own is basically to go to a change. And I don't think they would have this currency, so there are other ways to buy currency. I'll definitely invest in this money. Also, again, an investment is a donation is an investment. It's definitely a currency that I would like to hold. both ideologically, and I believe it will also yield, but I'm nobody's advisor. Nor do I necessarily know what I'm talking about. So, 17 March 2016. Let's try it. What, we ain't got nothing to lose. Let's try it. So, AstroSeek. I'm not going to be having houses, but for the most of it, except for the degree of the moon and the degree of Mercury, I'll have what I need. So let's do horoscopes, birth chart reports, and we got 17, March, genau, 2016. 17 March 2016. Let's see if I'm correct. Let's see if I'm correct. And 17 March 2016. So the spicy sound we already know. And we have, let's try and see if we get one of the names of the cantons there. Let's do Afrin, okay? It's, again, we won't have the houses, so Afrin, Syria, yay! We're on the map. So, what we don't have, ascendant, exact degree of the moon, and exact degree of Mercury. And the moon could be somewhere around Cancer. So they have a Cancer moon. They have a share moon with this country. They have a retrograde Jupiter in Virgo. Okay, this is for the Federation. Okay, of course it's not the absolute foundation, but the Federation is the closest to the Declaration of Independence. That's what I'm using. Have Mars in Sag, and this is a Mars hour. Saturn in Sag. Lilith on the 22nd degree of Libra. Basically, they are known for having a legion of women who kill Isis, who defeated Isis. So 22nd degree, Lilith will not be subordinate. Oh my God. So this Lilith on the 22nd degree are little women, lethal, not little, lethal women. They're basically little Lilith types. Okay, it's just not, you don't want to mess with those type of women. Well, it's also the degree of to kill and be killed. So unfortunately, women also die there because they seek equality. So this is a problem. It's a two-edged sword to have a 22nd planet in your chart, but some of us have it. I have Mars in the 22nd degree of Scorpio retrograde. So we have in Pisces, there's a little bit of a lot of stellium in Pisces here. We got Venus in Pisces, so exalted Venus. 6 degrees Pisces conjuncting 4 degree orb Neptune in Pisces. So very spiritual women, very idealistic women, but can also be delusional. Very important. This is something, unfortunately, it can be missing women, okay? The Yazidi genocide was by ISIS, was basically kidnapping 7,000 women to be sex slaves. You can understand how this is not representing of ISIS as can be, ISIS the goddess, as can be. But that would lead to the legion of women to basically would defeat ISIS. And so here we have, unfortunately, a country that's known for its 7,000 missing Yazidi women that were kidnapped to sex slavery, okay? Neptune is also missing. Venus is sisters, is women as well. So unfortunately, what this country is known for missing women. And here, I definitely would seek a better election for a concrete declaration of independence, both because of this little thing and the Venus-Neptune, because this is something that when it's triggered, it can reoccur. Okay, so women going missing is something that can absolutely reoccur. Women being highly idealistic and susceptible to be delusional within the country is something that I suspect that can occur. So when we talk about declaration of independence and considerations for declaration of independence, my previous episode, which I did about Procyon, okay, could definitely be considered as astrological consideration for election of declaration of independence. That is something that I would like to have re-elected. That is something that I would not want to reoccur, of 7,000 women being kidnapped to be sex slave as a part of a conflict, okay? So definitely a declaration of independence here can definitely solve the problem with a better election. Pluto was in 17 degrees Capricorn, which means that this Pluto is opposing the moon. And this one is not just by a sign, it's in orb to like where the moon, the lunar mentions where the moon could be with this. Pluto is opposing. Okay, that's a terrible thing to have as an election, because Pluto definitely means that once there is an established regime, however decentralized, it is emotionally oppressive to mothers, to caregivers, and to the people. Okay, so there is a plutocracy that's oppressive to the people with this election. Okay, we don't want that to be. Even though it's like, hey, it's the best of country, when it comes to the moon in a chart of a country, it represents the people. And so we want the moon position to be benefic. Yes, moon in Cancer is absolutely lovely. The moon here is not on Procyon. It could be anywhere around Sirius, but it's not on Procyon. I would definitely prefer to have something on Procyon in a chart of a country if we can, or even the ascendant. And for Declaration of Independence, you can absolutely get the ascendant, although that's risky, so I would prefer to be like a luminary, or any placement on Procyon can be good, unless you're like JFK and you have Saturn there, and then JFK also died as a result of avoiding a nuclear holocaust. So we might want, maybe to keep the benefics there, rather than malefics, and Mars is not doing well in Cancer, and Saturn is in detriment in Cancer. So we would definitely, except for Saturn and Mars, we would. But even if I would have rather have, like, if Mars is in Cancer, I'd rather have him on Procyon than anywhere else. Same with Saturn. So that is a very problematic election for a declaration of independence. And again, a declaration of independence with a better election could definitely be better. And so because of the slow motion of Pluto, we either get, we either get Pluto at around like 0 to 2 degrees of Aquarius, where it's no longer in orb with this with the moon in Cancer, because I do want there, like moon in Cancer is good. So Pluto is going to be around Aquarius. The location of the luminaries of the moon is going to have to find a good election with that Pluto. I would love Pluto in Aquarius more so than Pluto in Capricorn for a decentralized regime, that the structure outside of the structure. So Pluto in Aquarius, I believe, would be better, because it would eventually expose whatever corruption is there. However, the consideration for having Pluto in Capricorn are that, well, that Aquarius, well, you know what, it's not, because both of them are ruled by Saturn. Saturn is ruled, and wherever Pluto is, Saturn as ruler of both traditionally is going to be activating both the Capricorn and the Aquarius. So either way there is an issue, okay? And this is important for all the countries that will, or all the entities that are going to have a declaration of independence will either have Pluto in Capricorn, which is like in the following months until 2024, and c'est la vie, or they will have Pluto in Aquarius. This is both. This is any entity that will be born right now will have a Saturn Pluto, which we really need to delve very deeply into, the outer planets. How does this affect countries? Which countries deal with that the best? What helps them astrologically? What helps them magically? Because all countries will have to deal with it. This is astrology. We can't avoid the location of the outer planets. So definitely an opposition from the planet that represents the people, i.e. the moon, and a planet that represents regeneration and corruption, but also rejuvenation and destruction, kind of like the phoenix from the flame, that is in the opposite sign to the people, is very problematic because the people are going through crisis of being oppressed within there. Okay, so you really need, it's like there's emotional gaslighting happening. There is structural gaslighting, even though it's decentralized. So this is definitely something that I'd like to see change in the Declaration of Independence. Okay, continuing on. Mercury conjuncting Chiron in Pisces and conjuncting, this is Ketu. Big problem, big balagan. Why? It's not that Mercury is weak in Pisces. I don't mind. It could be a nation of painters and channelers and like that. I don't mind. Mercury with Chiron, wound around trade, children, heuristics. Okay, this is a thing that can sabotage the election for the Declaration of Independence. They're not to blame for it, but this is something that can get us to a bit of a pitfall because this is already an election, and the conjunction with Ketu tells us that there is something very, very karmic, very, very fated around this date. Okay, that tells me that this is an establishment of something that once was. I don't know what, as a country. Okay, if that would be the chart, natal chart of a person, I would say that maybe past life experience had to do with some sort of wounding around either the inner child or even stuff as being a child being trafficked or a child going missing. Of course, this is something that's related to the history of, they had to deal with ISIS where before the entire world. Okay, we only know of ISIS because of these heroes, basically. And the timestamp of Chiron with Mercury with Ketu is very fated. There is a karmic wound to heal regarding child trafficking, child labor, the labor of children perhaps itself, and even incest. Okay, because it's in Jupiter's sign. Jupiter, unfortunately, Zeus is associated with incest. And children going missing. Okay, so the up thing is that this is trining Mars in Sagittarius. So that, but it's an applied aspect, but it's a very wide orb. And it opposes Jupiter. It opposes the ruler. Okay, very problematic. The only thing that can mitigate this is a better election in the Declaration of Independence. I definitely want to see Mercury in a better place. Not anywhere near Chiron, not anywhere near the nodes. Because because Mercury is children and Jupiter is children. Mercury opposing Jupiter. Okay, it's something that I don't like to see in a chart of a nation. And this is some past karma of some sort of a political entity. Okay, I don't know. Like there are many origins of the people in Rojava, but this is something I definitely want to see different in the Declaration of Independence. Yes, children could still go missing with this Pisces location. We don't have the houses. Also, if I'm looking at the Venus square Mars here, it's a separating aspect. I don't like it. Okay, I don't like it. It doesn't matter if it's a women state, which is not. The square between Mars and Venus tells me that in terms of the healing, in terms of the medicine, and in terms of the relationship between men and women, this is a very problematic, a conflictual, and is not in alignment with actually the objective of the place. What I even like less is the proximity between Neptune here to square Mars and to square Saturn. Okay, a lot of boundary violation, illusion and disillusionment, not good for the borders of the country, okay, not good for the military. Definitely I would want to see a different election there. I would also look up inside the regime, the people. Are there people that pointed to this election that perhaps we need to gain another perspective, and to have a diversity of people understanding astrology. Okay, because if you have one person that knows astrology, or a couple of people know astrology, and they're in some secret society that pre-elects stuff, or like, let's pre-elect this thing, I find it difficult. And if they are dictated something by the states of the UN, then no, I would get the Declaration of Independence in an election that they choose. Definitely not with hard aspects between outer planets to inner planets as much as possible. Again, sometimes it's unavoidable, but I don't like this. Saturn is structure. Neptune is the lack of structure. The square here for the foundation of a country is not something that I would want to see, because we do want to have good boundaries. We do want to have the ability to do assertion. This is Mars in good relations and in good placement. Okay, this Mars, yes, so that's what it is. We have the Sun in 27 degrees Pisces. This is actually something that I do like. Okay, the last decan of Pisces, and even the last term of Pisces, is basically the end of the zodiac cycle. Okay, and this is a Sun that sits in a lunar mansion where we've seen it all, and you're able to be safe in dangerous places. It's a good location for the Sun when we want a political entity and leaders that are able to be in dangerous places. It's obviously a very dangerous place to live. And the Sun here is a luminary in a lunar mansion where you basically are protected in danger zones. Okay, I have my ascendant on 24 degrees of Pisces, still in that lunar mansion, and that has allowed me to do what I'm doing right now. But having the Sun here is actually something that I like, and the Sun is applying to trine Mars, which is wonderful. It means that the shine, the confidence, the character of the nation as well as its leaders is in harmony and alignment with military action, assertion, drive, and innovation. And that is something that I like seeing. Israel, for example, has a square, if I'm not mistaken, between Mars and the Sun, and that has cost us a lot of lives, literally. Okay, and that has created a lot of conflict in the state of Israel. Like, I would not hesitate to have another election for the state of Israel. We'll keeping the Procyon alive, but definitely having better Venus to Mars relations, Sun to Mars relation, luminaries relations, and so on and so forth. So this is for the Sun. We have a sextile between Mercury, Chiron, and okay, the Pluto here, it has a trine with Jupiter, which I love. It means that the worldly beliefs or the philosophy of the foundation of the country is well informed in the corruption and the plutocracy and so on and so forth. So this is something I actually like. Pluto is also in a bigger orb. It is trining and sextiling the nodes, so there is good relationship between Pluto and the nodes, which I like. Pluto is sextiling Mercury and Chiron This is a very mitigating effect. This means that the process of transformation needed to go and process this chiron wound, the labor of children, child trafficking, children going missing, and basically there can be children who are remembering past life there, that Pluto can absolutely support these children. And what I don't like is its ruler Saturn squaring this. Okay, so there's a very problem. It could be that there are children born that remember the past life, and maybe some of these children died in the war. Okay, if I think about what's happening right now in Israel and also in Palestine, a lot of children dying, children were beheaded, children were kidnapped. A lot of the children and the people are no longer with us. It's very likely that the children that are going to be born are some of the children that were beheaded and died in a ritualistic abuse death. And when such children are born, they can remember something of the past life. And what this tells me, it means that the plutocracy in the structure of the country can be supportive of these children that come with these past life memories and horrid memories. However, with Saturn being the ruler squaring and from Sagittarius, it can tell me that people might refuse to believe these children when they say, I am the child that died in these wars that created the country. I remember dying, and it can be, I am the child that died by Israeli bombing in Palestine, or I am the child that died by Hamas, and I was living in some village, and I remember my mother's name, and they're going to tell you a Hebrew name, okay? Because it goes that way. Incarnations go that way. Okay, it's very likely that the children that were bombed in Palestine are going to be born to Jewish families. It is very likely that the children that died and the people that died might be born to Palestinian households. So this is why we want the whole world to live good, because you know that it's just so. And children challenge the status quo, and they come up with memories, and they can be haunting memories. Or we heard of children that say, I want to go home, I want to go to my parents, and the mother is like, I gave birth to you. Like, it's very stressful, but these things are happening, and they are reality, as well as can be the children that died during such wars coming up alive and actually being born to the same nation or even the same family. And it doesn't have to be in horrible death. Okay, I had neighbors that they were having a child in IVF, and the father of the mother died, and the daughter was very, very connected to him, and she called the name of the child also the middle name in the name of that father. And one of the visions that she had, or her mother had, was as if the father came to her in a dream and say, I came back to you. And that this child is actually the soul of the father now coming up as a child to be cared for. Okay, so those things happen regardless of war. Of course, they also happen in war times. So let's say families that are now bringing new children, they may have their child reincarnating in another life. So it is basically, it's like having, or we have people where the father was kidnapped and they managed to have, and he preserved the sperm, so they managed to have another baby. And if the father was killed, it could absolutely be that this is the father coming as a child. Okay, reincarnation is weird that way, and fascinating and exciting. This one very much aims to stories of reincarnation of children, that they are very supported in the sense that they will be born to a structure that benefits them way more, but they will not be believed as they share their stories because of the square to Saturn that limits them being believed, and creating a T-square here with Jupiter. It's like these children are not believed because their stories are going to be tantalizing, okay? And that can be an issue. So awareness is key, okay? The solution of it is in the Mercury sign that is in Gemini, and What if we try to believe? What if we said, okay, let's say this child is telling me a story. What if that story was true? What if I engage with this child and listen to what they have to say, even as just trying it, even if it's difficult for me to believe it? That can be a resolution for that t-square. I can just try it as an option, because that can very well help the child to feel validated. It is very important for the child's ability to see the world and understand that what they see is the reality. Okay, and that is another. This is a topic for a whole other episode. Uranus is in 19 degrees Aries, trining Saturn. So Uranus, ruled by Mars, trining Saturn, is not making aspect to Mars, but squaring Moon, and squaring Pluto, okay, which is resolved with the 22 degrees Lilith. Lilith creates a square here, something that needs to be alchemized between Uranus, Pluto, the Moon, and Lilith. So let's begin with the good stuff. So the good stuff is the Uranus-Saturn trine. Okay, I love seeing this aspect. Okay, recently during 2021 to 2020 to 2022 even, we had Saturn square Uranus. Okay, anybody had an appointment to the dentist at that time, myself included? I discovered the fluoride that ruins our teeth and is in our, I literally have a Sensodyne toothpaste that somebody just dropped. And I found it. Now she's on the Mercury, so of course I'm going to speak about her. And it says Sensodyne is basically for sensitive teeth and dual care, and it says contains fluoride. So sodium fluoride, okay? The last thing you want on your teeth is fluoride. It's in the waters, it's in everything. So it's like Uranus came and like, oh, you want to care for your teeth, you definitely have to change the world, because you can't be watering your crops with fluoride, eating food with fluoride, drinking water with fluoride, and brushing your freaking teeth with the medical toothpaste that contains fluoride and expect to be healthy. Now, when you go to the dentist, you will also be bombarded with fluoride, so to make sure that you will come back, okay? And so that was the square. However, Saturn trine Uranus can be new technologies that aid infrastructure. That means a good connection between the innovators and the traditional people, gaining wisdom from traditional people being willing to listen to revolutionary people, the elderlies of the revolution and the youngsters talking about, yeah, this is a very idyllic, beautiful, wonderful in itself aspect. These are the two rulers, the modern and traditional of Aquarius. And when they're having a good time with each other, we are having a good time with life, where we go to a structure or a school or a religious person or speak with the elderly. We're having refreshing, revolutionary experiences. And even if we rebel, our elders, they accept it with like, you know, a fresh spirit. That's amazing. I love this. It's also why probably LGBTQ, okay, identity, Uranus, and women having equal rights in a decentralized structure of regime that allows for a lot of liberation, Saturn in Sag. Okay, that's a great thing to have. Well, we're gonna have the sextile between Uranus and Saturn, but Saturn is going to be conjuncting Neptune, so that's going to be a bit of a weird thing to have with the sextile to Pluto. So perhaps in 2026 there will be some good time to elect for a declaration of independence of any country, and so that can be yeah, I mean, of course, I'd rather have Saturn sextile in Neptune, but you can't have it all. And I'm okay with the conjunction of the Saturn-Neptune when it sextiles Uranus and sextiles Pluto, and Pluto and Uranus trine. This is something that can be very good. Along that time, we might find some good elections. I haven't looked at it, but this is something that I absolutely love about this chart. And it's probably one of the pillars of the foundation of Rojava. So what is my takeaways when I'm looking at this? First of all, my takeaways is that what made us declare independence should not be necessarily within the election of the Declaration of Independence. What do I mean by that? Okay, 7,000 Yazidi women were kidnapped to sex trafficking, and then a legion of women defeated ISIS. And then we had a new entity, okay? This is the story of the foundation, but when I want to declare independence, do I want the timestamp of 7,000 kidnapped women and trafficked children, and not know and educate all these people going missing, and the degree of to kill and be killed in the timestamp of my nation? Less so. Okay, that was the pillar of the foundation. Okay, that this look on 22nd degree Libra is those legion of women defeating ISIS. But do I want it on the timestamp of the country for now and after? And there's another insight that I have here is that instead of waiting for your country to be in like a great war and be destructed, it's like what's happening right now with Israel, that we had Ketu on the ascendant of the country with Rahu on Aries, and the entire foundation, entire identity of the state of Israel is standing up to question, 75 years old. But we can also think about renewing our Declaration of Independence in good elections every now and then. So instead of waiting for a crisis to do that, we can find better elections. So let's say we are dealing with the problem in our country of refugees. Okay, let's look at the natal chart, what's in there, and now let's see. There's the remedies that we can have as a country when these triggering are approaching, but maybe there are better elections there that are great for the foundation of a country and don't have this timestamp of kidnapped and missing children and people and so on and so forth. And maybe we can renew the Declaration of Independence, kind of like renewing of the vows in marriage, but as a country. And so every couple of decades, we're definitely going to have new things coming up. Okay, we have 4 to 6 or even 7, 4 to 6 eclipses a year. And these are changes in the way we see the world. These are changes in leadership. And that's just happening. It's great green birds showing up here now. Just lovely view. And what I think is that we want to have that pre-elected so we can change with the seasons without fearing to lose the identity of our country. Because we're scheduled to redeclare our independence, okay? We're scheduled to rethink. And so it doesn't come on us as a civil war, as a war, as a crisis, as kidnapped people, and so on and so forth, but we're actually scheduling up to, hey, let's choose what is the next election that we want to be considering, and what is it bringing, and adjust our choices accordingly so we can pick good elections and we can remain up to date and schedule going over our traditions rather than have that happen to us in a crisis. So that's something, that's another takeaway for me. Okay, let's take a look at the fixed stars here. Not, Arabic lots, yeah, but it's asteroids first. So including asteroids, Aries was on the 22nd degree of Aries. She's about to return to this degree right now in retrograde as I'm speaking about her. And Humia was also in Libra on the 23rd degree. Well, Aries opposing Lilith. Not something I would timestamp it. Like, no, okay, no, that's a no. And that is something that definitely is calling for re-elections. I don't want Lilith and Aries not agreeing of each other. Okay, I don't want two free women to disagree. I don't want. Yeah, it's like I want them to be getting along well, not to be opposing each other. And Humia is the goddess of fertility, and Lilith on the 22nd. Like, there's something here that I just don't like. There is the conjunction with Uranus and Aries, which is probably the reason this country was founded, and the identity is the marginalized or getting political entity. It definitely must be improved upon a Declaration of Independence, and not to get what the UN says, because of what the UN says is conglomerate of secret societies deciding for you. No, get to know electional astrology. Get to not hire an electional astrology. Get to know astrology. Get to know these things so you'll have a lot of people sitting there informed and not waiting for somebody to schedule a meeting in the UN, and now we're going to declare and vote on it when we all know the vote, and we're going to have the exact timestamp for on the minute when the Declaration of Independence is signed. No, I definitely want that to be occurring differently and for that to be counted. And so what they did here is the beginning of that. We just need to have a better election, because this is not it's understandable why it happened now, but this puts a timestamp of slaughter of the marginalized, and the marginalized having to slaughter on the foundation of the state. Is something I'd like to change as soon as possible. Okay, they have good defendants, but also Procyon. That's all I gotta say. Like, put some Procyon there. Relax on, like, release your struggle. Add some Procyon, because Procyon, what it tells you, and I looked at the chart of Nelson Mandela, is we are changing what we did bad in society, and then apartheid itself become obsolete, because apartheid was just accentuating the segregation of bloodlines that already existed, and the values that we needed to throw out of society. So Mandela threw it from within, and it was just purging any segregation of bloodline, marrying a spouse from another tribe that he was in love with. Okay, it was not, it was fated. And so Procyon does that. It tends at the point where we are being cannibalistic, where what we do to protect ourselves is cannibalistic, and it sweetens it so that we are feeling safe and no longer needing to nucleify ourselves. It's a denucleification fixed star, and I definitely think that we definitely want to have it very close to foundation of nations, especially nations that are dealing with conflict, that have dealt with conflict, or anywhere. It's like this is something that something has to be there. Like, for a nation, definitely so. Even for a tribe or for community or comuna, okay, we definitely want this Procyon present. And if it's not present in the election, have a talisman of Procyon on the flag. Okay, consecrate the image of the flag, or when you design the flag, consecrate something that's to do with Procyon, or a symbol of Procyon, or the constellation itself, and you can consecrate it, and then that becomes on the flag of the country. That's a great remediation if you don't have an election, which we will not be having until, I think, 2026, for a good Procyonic election for foundation of Declaration of Independence. So, yeah. Anything more? So I think I pretty much said it. And I really like the concept of Rojava. I think it's good. I think it's a fresh light in the Middle East. But I'd definitely be looking up to 2026 for declaration of independence. Meanwhile, I'd definitely be working with Procyon. Definitely, and if you are doing any pro work, so blessing, you can do it right now. Basically, to call on Procyon to denucleify the region, to denucleify the world. And now we are heading for an eclipse, but I'm not going to manifest an eclipse. But definitely, I can call on Procyon to be more and more present in its symbolism and the wisdom of Procyon, the protection from where we are doing self-harm by our desire to security to be addressed, and so that we can make the real bestow on us the ability and the making of oppression obsolete by changing what we need to change in our traditions, by addressing where we have been hurting ourselves by seeking safety, by addressing what we did for weapons, and basically sweetening the conflict by addressing what we need to feel safe and providing for our safety and sense of well-being and growth in healthy ways. And so it's and definitely to call for, I'm calling for Procyon for the entire region, the entire world, for Israel, for Palestine and Palestinians, Israel and the Israelis worldwide and in the region, and for Rojava and any existing community or forming communities or forming country, for Syria, and the Palestinian people as well, for they are being basically, they're going through a bit of the Jews' story, basically within their own leaders and their own like neighbors. So definitely Procyon here to change what needs to be changed. A lot of it has to do with LGBTQ rights, women rights. The certain things need to be purged there, so that they're so they're ready for their independence, because they're ready for independence, that they are safe, and what they do for their safety is sometimes actually nourishing them and not cannibalistic. Okay, so that's on Procyon. Always good to call on Andromeda and ask for the protection of Andromeda and the protection from kidnapping or being kidnapped, from torture or being tortured, making torture obsolete. Okay, don't gain anything in torture, not also in investigation. By the way, Israel knows that, and made certain ways of investigation through technology that yield more answers than torture. So the abolition of torture, as well as sexual offenses and all of the above, the kidnapping and so on and so forth, and the reconciliation of that which seemed irreconcilable. Now when Aries is in Andromeda, and she was also in Andromeda in this election, but on a very peculiar degree. But now when Aries is in Andromeda, it's a great time for petitioning Andromeda to reconcile that which seemed irreconcilable, and the misrepresented, the marginalized, for them to be reconciled into our society, to feel like they have a place in the world, to have a place in the world, and to be represented and be respected and be included, and for these marginalized identity groups to be able to assert themselves, and for them to be reconciled into the world. So those are great things to ask for, alongside with the shielding of Algol, shielding from basically petitioning Algol to abolish these blood sacrifice rituals, to protect from those rituals. Okay, and I talked about hibiscus in another episode, where we use hibiscus instead of blood in blood rituals and blood sacrifice of animals and people or children. And that's African wisdom, so I'm grateful to African people sharing this wisdom, and to protect us from these type of rituals, these types of abuse of ritual, okay, whether it's rape or sexual harassment or gaslighting or anything that interferes with the sexual energy and the sensual experience, being joyous and safe in our voice, and our recovery of our voices, okay, sex chakra, throat chakra, a protection of the people who speak up, for them to be believed, for them to be accepted, and for them to be able to heal from these events if they were hurt, and for people to be protected from those kinds of occasions, especially as Uranus approaches the 22nd degree in April, but in general, and for the destigmatizing of what people believe is psychosis, or reality, breaking with reality, and understanding that it is the environment that gives us the clarity of the senses, okay, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clear sensing, in ways that are supportive to us, rather than intruding, as happens in times of crisis and when a change is needed for the people. For those changes to be addressed on time, so people won't even have to experience intruding clairs, or what we call psychic attack, or what people call psychosis, and for people to be believed, and for the actual crisis to be addressed, rather than for them to be, drugged to death and silenced by supposed medicine, and so on and so forth. Yes, and with this, I will end this episode. So thank you for watching, and yeah.